Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 327. You'll want to subscribe right now and ensure you never miss a journey. The entrepreneurs that join me each week reveal steps they took on their journey to success. And these steps reveal a path you can take as well. Joining us today is Dre Baldwin, author, podcaster, 4 times TEDxTalks, and has built a content publishing empire. Hello, Dre.
Hello, Patience. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My audience are excited to hear your story, but start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
And the one thing, if I only limit myself to one, I could tell you a lot. But one is going to be this concept of the third day and how moving yourself strategically to show up on a consistent basis will create infinite success and results for you in your life.
Can't wait to hear more about that. But let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Sure. My background is come from the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, now live in Miami, Florida. Was always into sports. Played a little bit of American football, then baseball. Finally started playing basketball around the age of 14. Didn't really have success at the beginning. Only played 1 year in high school. I had to walk on in college, meaning I didn't have a scholarship or anything like that, but played at the Division III level of college, which is a tier that usually doesn't produce pro athletes. So after I finished college, I still wanted to play pro, but I didn't have any job offers or prospects. So I kind of had to hustle my way into professional basketball, which I was able to do. And while I was playing, I started putting videos on this new website called YouTube. Now, this is 2005. That's when I started my career. So I started to build an audience on the internet at the same time that I was playing pro basketball overseas. Didn't really know it was an audience until a few years later, which is around the time when around 2009, 2010, I found myself unemployed from basketball. So I really just started asking myself, what can I do to give myself a little bit more control over what I was doing? And that's when I started building up what we now call a personal brand. So I started putting more content on the internet, writing more content for my website, just doing things where I was in control and I can make money from it at the same time and still have it focused on basketball through the YouTube videos that I was putting out. So that's really where I started to get known online, was through my personal brand. And at the same time, the players who were watching me, they would ask me questions about mindset because they learned about my background and the fact that I came from it wasn't like this perfect roadway for me to become a pro athlete. So they would ask me about questions about things like discipline and mental toughness and confidence and taking initiative. So when I started talking about those things, Patience, I started to draw this audience of people who were not even athletes. And they would tell me and drop hints to me that, hey, the stuff that you're talking about, I know you made it for people who play sports, but the way that you break down mindset, anybody can learn from that. That is not limited to just sports. So that is what planted the seed for me to answer your question. How I knew what I was going to do when I was done playing ball. I could just take the mindset stuff that I was already talking about, and I just need to create a framework for which I could teach it to anyone, even if they never played a sport in their lives. And fast forward to today, that's exactly what I do. I stopped playing basketball in 2015. So for the last 6 years, I've been doing this full time, but I've kind of been doing it, period, for over 10 years. So that's how we got here.
Wow. What a background, Ray.
Thank you.
I know you started this because you got unemployed and now you are helping people using your knowledge you gained from sports. But why do you do what you do?
Why do I do it? Well, it's because it's just who I am as a person. So even going back, Patience, from back into the college days or even back in high school, matter of fact, because, in high school, you get 4 years, but I didn't make the team until my last year, my last chance. And even that 1 year that I was on the team, I didn't even play that much. So I was pretty much sitting on the bench. So I wasn't the type of player that anybody would have looked at that time and said they're going to become a great athlete or even play in college, let alone was I going to play in the pros. But it was always my competitive mindset and the fact that I saw some potential inside of myself to keep going, even though there was nothing in my tangible world that said that I should keep trying. There was nothing that said I was going to make it anywhere in basketball, but I had the determination within myself to keep trying and the confidence that maybe it would become something. And then I had to have that go-getter energy, that what I call personal initiative, to keep trying, even though any reasonable, logical person would have looked at me and said, you might as well forget about basketball, go do something else with your life in which you could be successful, because it wasn't going to be sports. So I always had that mentality inside of myself. And it just took me some time to figure out, first of all, that a lot of other people needed it. I wasn't really thinking, when I was 18 or 19 that anybody else needed this. This is just how I thought in my own head. Then once I started publishing my material to basketball players, I realized that a lot of athletes needed it, because many basketball players, when they saw me play, they would say, okay, this guy looks like he can play. But then when they heard my story, they said, wow, man, you had all those setbacks. Listen, I just got cut from my high school team too. Or I'm in college, but I'm not getting any playing time right now. Or, hey, Dre, I want to play overseas, but I don't have any prospects to make it either. So everything you went through, rather, Dre, I'm going through right now, and you doing it, I basically was giving hope to a lot of these players who might have been overlooked or might have been counted out or didn't have that. It didn't look like they were going to become successful. So the first step was, as I said, I was just using it for myself. The second step was I realized that a lot of athletes needed the same, mindset coaching, if you will, even though I wasn't directly coaching them. I was kind of like a virtual coach to a lot of athletes, millions of them. And then the third step was, when I started talking about it even more, people who didn't even play sports started seeing it. And that's when I realized, okay, now when I'm done playing sports, because athletes, when we finish playing, we're not even 40 years old yet. So we still got another half of our lives to live, and we had to figure out what we're going to do. So I already had that problem solved when I was still playing sports. So it was that 3-step process is how we got here today. I mean, of course, I'm summarizing the story, but yes, that's how we got here.
Wow. Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
It's a great question. I think every human being gets to determine and define their own success. And for me, success means you're being the person who you want to be, that you look in the mirror and you are proud of who you are as a person and how you're showing up. And you're doing what you want to do in life. I mean, you're every day, whatever you're putting your time into, because human beings, we are wired to work. We're wired to have something to go after every day, a reason to get out of bed. And if you're being who you want to be and doing what you want to do every single day in life, then that is by definition what makes you successful, as far as I'm concerned. Now, of course, you want to have what you want to have, too. You want to get the results and maybe make the money, or you want to get followers on social media. But each person gets to determine for themselves what that is. But it's the being and the doing that I think everyone has control over. And that's what makes you successful. You don't always control the results.
Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
Wow. I don't know if there was a day. I'm not sure there was one particular day when everything worked out. The thing is, Patience, when I talk to, like we're having this conversation right now, and just talking about my background and things that I've done, and I'm telling this story, and maybe somebody who's hearing it for the first time, they might say, wow, it's impressive, or it's amazing, and the things that you've done, and they'll congratulate me and things like that. But you understand that when you're living it on a day-to-day basis, you don't see it as, okay, today is the day I finally made it. Just today, it happened. Like, you're the one showing up every single day. Like, you see all the background stuff. You see all the behind the scenes stuff. Of course, there are successes along the way and things that you're proud of, but at the same time, you're showing up every single day and doing that work. So I can't say there was any one moment. So of course there was, the day that I signed my first contract to play pro basketball, or the day that I made my first sale online as an entrepreneur, or the day that I, maybe one of my TED Talks came out and people saw it and said, wow, I like the way this guy talks about stuff, even though, he's a former athlete. I don't play sports, but I learned from it. And even conversations like this one right now. But there isn't any one moment where everything all of a sudden, hey, you're a success. Success is a journey, I believe. And like I just talked about, being who you want to be and doing what you want to do. That's not you were it for like 5 minutes or you did one thing. It's you're consistently doing it. That's how I define that success. So there is no one moment.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
Wow, that's a deep question. I could write a whole book answering that one. What have I learned from business? Man, well, the number one thing that I learned in business is that, well, you have to know what business actually means to you. And to me, the definition I give of business is the exchange of resources between people. Usually the buyer, the customer or the client is giving up their money, and you, the salesperson or the entrepreneur, let's say, you are giving them something that is worth that money, usually worth more than the money. And that's why the customer will keep making that transaction, because they feel like they're winning in that transaction. So you want to give them more return on investment than what you're asking for. So the number one thing that I've learned in business, and there are so many number one things, is that you really have to understand what value is for the person that you're trying to influence, the person that you're trying to sell. What is value for them? And then giving them what they want. When you give your clients and your customers and your audience what they want, they will be willing to pay for it, and they'll pay for it over and over again. So that's, if I had to just think of one thing, I would say that, but there could be 1,000 if I thought about it for long enough.
What is the most dangerous belief an entrepreneur can have?
The most dangerous belief an entrepreneur can have is that if you build it, they will come. All right. That is a lie. That is not true. So just because you think you are very good at what you do, even going back to my sports background, I hear from athletes all the time, even to this day, even though I don't really market to athletes that much anymore, I still hear from them because I have so much material out there. But athletes will tell me things like, hey, Dre, I feel like I'm one of the better players in my school, but I'm not on the team. Or I feel like I'm good enough to play professionally, but I don't have a job playing professionally. And even with people who have personal brands and people who want to be thought leaders and speakers and authors these days and coaches, they believe that what they're offering is valuable. And I look at what they're offering and I know that it's valuable. The challenge for many of us when we're in that salesperson position is that we think just because what we're doing is good, or that we're good at what we're doing, that it means we deserve to get a certain result. It doesn't work like that in life. Of course, you need to be good. I mean, my whole brand is called Work on Your Game. So you do want to work on your game and be good. But at the same time, you have to understand, as I just said a moment ago, business is the exchange of resources, and you have to understand what is valuable for the other person. If you don't understand the mindset of the person who you're trying to influence, then you could have all the stuff that could help them. But if you can't explain it to them and you can't articulate it in such a way that moves them to action, then you could be really good at what you do, yet still not get any results from it. So it's really important that you understand the psychology of the person you're trying to influence. And a lot of business is psychology. Is in the sports world, what I tell people often, patience in sports is a meritocracy, in that if you are good enough at what you do, all you have to do is be good in sports, because we have a scoreboard and is objective and everybody can see, all right, this team had 80 points. The other team had 79 points. So the team with 80 points wins the game. And the business world is not like that at all. There's no scoreboard in business. A lot of business is very subjective. It is not objective. It's very subjective. It's based on opinions. It's based on how people feel. It's based on people's psychology. And not everybody thinks exactly the same way. So just being good alone is enough when you play sports, many times, not all the time, but many times. In the business world, being good alone is completely worthless. You have to be able to show people that you're good, and you have to be able to show the right people that you're good, and then get an exchange from them in exchange for that goodness. So there's many more steps you have to take in the business world. So the worst mindset that an entrepreneur can have is thinking that just because they're good, everything's going to work out in their favor. They usually find out pretty quickly that that is not the case.
If you could rerun the first year of your business, what would you definitely not do?
What would I not do? I would not have an email list. That's the first year of my business. I didn't have an email list. So I didn't know what an email list was. I was selling products and people were buying from me, but I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. I didn't have any formal training. You know, the funny thing is I went to school. I have a 4-year business degree from Penn State University, but I didn't know anything about running an online business, at least. And a lot of what I was taught in my business classes in college now did absolutely nothing, does absolutely nothing for me today. Actually, nothing that I learned in college in my business courses does anything to support what I do business-wise to this very day. And it's not necessarily a knock on my school, because I went to college from 2000 to 2004. Now, the internet was not the internet at that time. And there's no way that any college or anyone could have known that we would have the world that we have today, even, 17 years ago. Nobody knew this was coming. So I don't blame them for it, but I still often share that with people, and I always get a chuckle from the audience when I say things like that. But nobody knew that this was coming. So I think if I was in college today, I'd probably get a different type of education when it comes to business, because now we can see the internet, and now maybe, hopefully, there's some classes about it that people can learn from. And at the same time, you can go on to YouTube, you can go on all these websites and get your own education, even if you don't go to college, as far as selling things on the internet. Whereas back in 2004, we did not have access to this information. There was none of it out there because none of us knew the world that was about to happen in the next 5 years. So it's just interesting how fast things change. So to answer your question there, the one thing that I did not do that I should have done was start building an email list so I could have access to the people who are really interested in me, and access to my customers, which I know now is the lifeblood of a business. The most important thing I own is that email list.
As now you mentioned that you have authored 9 books. Do you always wanted to be an author?
Yes, I always wanted to be an author because I've always been into reading and writing. My mother is an educator, so she had me and my sister reading and writing from a young age. Probably, actually, I know for a fact we were ahead of like all the other students when we started going to school. Like even elementary school, we were ahead of the other students simply because we were like in school before we even went to school, because we had a teacher at home. So I was always into reading and writing like I said, as a youth. And even I liked writing even in school when I would have writing classes and stuff like that. And then the first thing that I was doing online, and when I told you my story earlier, I mentioned YouTube was the way that I started to build an audience. But before I actually had a video on YouTube, I was actually blogging first. I started blogging in May of 2005. That's the first time I ever put myself out on the internet, was with that blog. So I've always been writing, and anyone who comes into my world, if you get on my email list to this very day, I'm not going to send you a whole bunch of videos. I'm going to send you you're going to get articles from me. You're going to get emails from me that you actually read. Yes, I do have 8,000 videos on YouTube, but I also write every single day, and I've written all those books. So anybody who doesn't like reading, you're probably not going to get too far into my world, because I do a lot of writing. So people who like reading will like my stuff, because I've always been into writing. And when I saw the opportunity that I could self-publish, meaning I didn't need anyone to approve of me in order to put my writing out to the world, which is probably around 2010 when I found out about it, I knew it was for me. I knew I could immediately do that. And as I've learned and got more information on how to sell things and structure offers and things like that, it just made it even better for me to sell my material online through writing.
What advice would you give someone who's out there trying to really go into self-publishing or want to become an author, but still really having this notion of like, oh, I don't know, is this for me? So what advice would you give them?
Just start writing. That's the number one piece of advice, is to start writing. Now, you got a couple levels of that entrepreneur who has that challenge. And you and I both know, Patience, there are a whole lot of them out there. So let's first of all talk about the one who has the challenge of they want to be out there, or they're not quite sure, but they haven't written anything yet. So I would tell them, let's back up. Let's not even worry about you being out there, whatever that means to you. First of all, let's actually get something written, because you have nothing to put out there, even if you wanted to. So let's make sure that you're actually writing. And even if that means just writing a short article every day, even if you start by writing a caption to your Facebook post or your Instagram, just start doing that on a consistent basis. And I tell anyone who wants to write every single day. Reason that I've gotten good at writing, and the reason I can be so prolific at my writing, is because I write every single day. The way that I got good at making videos and being able to articulate myself and do all my videos in one take, no editing, is because I did it every single day. Anyone who's great at what they do it every day. They treat it like a job, even when or before it even becomes a job. So the number one thing I would tell that person, you need to be writing every day. I don't care where you write. I don't care if you write in a diary just for yourself. You write on Facebook, you write on Instagram captions, you send emails out. Whatever you do, you need to be writing every single day. So that's the number one thing. Actually have something to put out before you worry about putting yourself out. Now, the second level is the person who already has some things written. Maybe they wrote a book. Maybe they've written some articles, but they haven't published them yet. And they're worrying about putting themselves out there. You got to jump. At some point, you have to jump into the water, and maybe it'll be cold. Maybe it might be a little bit deep, but you have to jump in. If you want people to know how you feel and where you stand and what you want to share, you got to be willing to put it out there. This requires a little bit of ego. You got to have enough ego to believe that what you have to say is important enough that you can use it to interrupt what other people already have going on, so that they can hear what you're talking about. And that's the next level, is just being willing to put it out there. And then the third level, once you're already putting yourself out there, is just figuring out how do you get more people to pay attention. So that's what I would say to the person who's thinking about it.
What is the most valuable thing you have ever given away?
The most valuable thing I've ever given away is the thing that I still give away to this very day. I just give away what I call game, giving people game. And my whole brand is called Work on Your Game. So that game, whether it was back in the days, it was a basketball game, then it became mindset game. Now it's still mindset game, but also business game, branding game. I don't care if I'm talking about a social issue, if I'm talking touching on a political or governmental issue, whatever it is, I'm always giving people game. I'm always trying to give people something that, even if they're not paying for it, I don't care if I'm talking on an Instagram story, a tweet, a book, a course, or a live event, or even one-on-one coaching, that I always want to have people come away from a conversation with me with more value than what they showed up with. I always want to give people more value than they paid for, even if they didn't pay anything at all. That's always been my goal, is that I never want to cheat somebody out of their time and attention. So always giving people some game. So the most valuable thing I give away every single day is giving people game that will help make them better no matter what.
What grounds you?
What grounds me is just knowing that this all ends for everybody. At some point, every single one of us at some point is all going to be over. And most of what we're saying and doing right now at some point is going to be forgotten, no matter how great you are at what you do. And just understanding that I've been in the places that every one of my audience is in. The people who I work with, the people who come to me for coaching, the people who watch my content or read my articles, I've been in their position. The good thing about the background that I came from and the challenges that I dealt with is that I know what it feels like to be the person at the bottom. I know what it feels like to be the person who's looked at as the best or one of the best. So I know how to I can speak to people at every level simply because I know what it feels like to be at their level. So that's what keeps me grounded, is understanding what it feels like to be there and also knowing what it takes to get out of that space and move up to a higher level, and continuing to this very day, still working to ascend and elevate and get better and keep, as I like to say, working on my game.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
Man, only one thing? I can give you 20, but if I could only say one, I would boil it all down to mental toughness. And the way that I define mental toughness is a person's willingness and ability to continue showing up and doing the work on a daily basis and continuing to put themselves out there boldly and authentically, even when the success that they expect to achieve has yet to be achieved. That is mental toughness. That's just that perseverance or persistence or stick-to-itiveness or grit. You could use all of those words interchangeably as far as this definition goes. And a lot of people, it's very interesting to me, and it's somewhat baffling to me, but not really, because I've thought about it and wrote about it enough. But a lot of people that I've known and come across have had plenty of, when it comes to talent, skill level, opportunity, they had all of that in place to be successful, but they did not have the mental toughness. And because of that lack of mental toughness, they ran into a challenge, and that challenge stopped them. That challenge basically ended their run, ended their career, or that challenge basically broke them. That challenge kept them from going any further than where they had gone. And I know plenty of people who have the talent or had the talent to go much further than they did, but in certain areas of life, let's say, but they didn't do it simply because they didn't have the mental toughness to keep going when they face challenges.
How do we build this mental toughness? Can you tell us a few steps how we can really start?
Sure. Well, number one thing that I tell anyone about mental toughness is that you cannot develop toughness without being in tough situations. Number one thing is you got to be in tough situations. Now, usually we don't want to be in tough situations. We would all probably ideally have everything be easy. Everything just work out the way that we want it to work out. Every plan just executes swiftly and works out perfectly. And everything we try just produces the perfect result the first time we go through it. That's how we would all want it to be. But at the same time, when you really think about it, all of us as adults, none of us has had things go that way in our lives. At least most of us have not. And when we look back on it and look at where we are versus what we went through, we can all be thankful for the fact that things did not go in that quote unquote ideal way, simply because having things not go our way is where the mental toughness gets built. But it's a choice. This is the important caveat, that all of us have plans and goals and hopes for the future and things that we want to do. And most of us go out there and we actually try to make it happen. And what happens is inevitably, usually pretty quickly, we're trying something and it's not working and we're not getting the result, and we fall on our faces and life smacks us down. At that moment, that is the moment when we find out who's going to be the professional and who's going to remain the amateur. Because the professional is the person who gets up, brushes themselves off, and they come back. And even if they get knocked down the second, third, and the seventh time, they keep showing up until they figure it out. They keep trying a new approach until they find something that works. So Napoleon Hill mentioned that, and he talked about it actually explicitly in his books, The Law of Success and in Think and Grow Rich. Whereas the person who fails in life, the failure in life, is the person who gets knocked down the same way that the successful person got knocked down. The difference is the failure just doesn't get up. Or they get up and they turn around and they go back to where they came from. They don't regather themselves and steer back and try to figure out how can they solve this problem. They allow the problem to solve them, metaphorically speaking, and they just stop trying. So when it comes to that mental toughness, number one thing that anyone needs to do to develop mental toughness is very simple. Just keep living life, because you're going to face a tough situation. Life is going to smack you in the face. You are going to fall backwards. You're going to try something that's not going to work. The way you develop the mental toughness, actually, really, you already have the mental toughness. The question is, are you going to use it? And when you get knocked down and you're laying there on the ground and you're looking up at the situation that smacked you down, the question is, are you going to exert that mental toughness? Because it's already there within you. The question is, will you exert it by getting up and coming back, or will you allow the situation to defeat you by crawling away in shame? That's how the mental toughness is exerted. And the more you exert it, it's kind of like a muscle, patience, is that the more you use it, the stronger the muscle gets. And if you don't use it, the muscle atrophies and it withers away.
How do we develop confidence? Because some of them, as you mentioned, that they want to be online, but publishing and the whole world seeing you, others like, ooh, that is a bit too much. So how can we develop confidence and get out there and face the world?
Great question. Developing confidence. First of all, let's get clear on what confidence is. Confidence is defined as a belief in one's ability to do something. So if you want to have the belief in your ability to do something, simplest way is start doing it, even though you might not be good at first. This is how I got started in basketball, also in speaking, also in everything else that I do. When I started off, I wasn't that good. I look at some of my writing from 10 years ago, and it compared to how I write now is terrible. But people liked it back then. The point is I got started. So the number one thing for confidence is discipline. Discipline creates confidence, because discipline is showing up every day and doing the work. So when you show up somewhere every day and you do the work, just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, if someone wants to get into writing, for example, write every day. You want to become a video creator, make videos every day. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. Just do it every single day. You want to be good at basketball, play basketball every day. You want to be a good podcaster, get on the microphone and record every single day. Just do it. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Doesn't matter if you put it out or not. Just do it on a daily basis. So the discipline of showing up every single day builds your confidence simply because you are exercising the muscle of doing the work. That is how confidence gets built. The next way that you build the confidence is when it's time for you to go out there and perform, because showing up and practicing is a lot different world than performing, is that you might need to borrow that confidence from someone else temporarily. And this concept is what I call the super you, which is you still being yourself, but you're tapping into your highest possible level of confidence. And the way that you do it is really simple. Whatever you're going out there to do, just ask yourself the following question. Who's a person? And this could be a made up person, imaginary person. You could think of yourself, or it could be someone who you know of who has done this thing that I'm about to do, who has done it successfully. And whoever that is, get a picture of that person in your mind, even if it's yourself, and then ask yourself, what kind of energy would this person have? Not what would they do? There's a lot of times in life we slow ourselves down and we get hung up on this what do I do thing. And this is a big mistake that people make, is they ask themselves, well, what do I do? Or I don't know how to do it. And that stops them from progressing. Ask yourself, what kind of energy would this person have? In other words, who are they being? What is their mindset? How confident are they? How are they feeling about themselves? What's their energy? What's their aura? That's the only question you have to ask yourself. Answer the question to the best of your ability. So how would this person show up? So if you're a singer, for example, ask yourself, or whoever your favorite singer is, how would Rihanna or Adele or Beyonce, what kind of energy would they have standing behind that curtain right before they go on stage to perform in front of all these people? What kind of confidence would they have? How would they feel about themselves? And then you, because we all have this ability to imagine, all you need to do is assume that same energy that person would have. You don't need to sing like them. You don't need to look like them. You don't need to sing their songs. Just assume their energy. And for that moment, just have that energy that person has. Now, the discipline that you've been doing the work consistently, that will show up on its own. You don't have to worry about how to do it or what exactly you're going to do. Just assume the energy And that's where the confidence comes from. And now that you will go out there and perform at that level, now you have proven to yourself that that ability was already within you. All you did was just borrow a little bit of it from Taylor Swift or Beyonce for a minute. Now you show that you can do it. Now you don't need them anymore. Now you can use yourself as an example. So that's a simple way to build confidence.
Thank you. In your businesses, do you have a mentor or a coach yourself?
Absolutely. So I will either at any given time, I either have a coach and or I'm in a mastermind program and or I'm in a coaching program. So right now I'm actually doing 2 of those right now. So always. It's just like in sports, every athlete, we always have coaches. You know, as a basketball player, there was I always had multiple trainers. Every team I play for, of course, there's a coach. So in the sports world, we always have someone to help us, even at the top 1% in the sports world as professionals. Every single professional athlete has a coach. So in the business world, it only makes sense to do the same thing.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors or coaches has told you?
Wow, man, there have been so many. I actually did an episode on my own platform where I talked about this, the most valuable things I ever got from my coaches. And I actually had to make it a 2-part series because there were so many things. But one of the best things was one of my coaches, just like we were just talking about confidence a minute ago. When I was 14, I was playing on this basketball team. It was the first organized team I had ever played for. And my coach, Steve, called me over to him right before I was about to shoot some free throws, which is a shot you take when nobody's playing defense. And the coach called me over to him and he said, make these. That's all he said. He said, I need to shoot like 4 free throws. And he said, go make all of these shots. He didn't even say that many words. He just said 2 words, make these. Now, at that time, I'm 14. So I looked at basketball like when you shoot the ball, it might go in, it might not, right? It's like kind of like a 50-50 proposition. But the way that he said that to me was like he expected me to make all of the shots. And I didn't even know that was even a thing. I know that was a mentality you could have. But then I went to the free throw line and I made all 4 free throws. So that experience there gave me the confidence of understanding that you really can expect for a certain success to go a certain way. And because I made all those shots, I said, wow, just saying it or having someone say it to you in such a way that they believe that you should believe it can change everything. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned from confidence, just from that 1 30-second experience.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
One thing no one knows about me?
Yes.
Is that even though I'm in pretty good shape and I have the athletic body type, still work out every single day, I eat a lot. I'm always snacking on something. So I got some candy sitting here on my desk. I'm going to eat some potato chips later. I'm going to eat, I still got to eat lunch. I had some pizza last night. So I eat a whole lot of food. I'm always eating stuff, even though I will always be in game shape, so to speak. But I take in a lot of calories, even a fair amount of junk food, despite the fact that I'm an athlete.
Let's talk about your business and tell us who can join.
Sure. Well, my business is called Work on Your Game Incorporated. And what we do here is very simple. I take the mental tools that help an athlete get to the top 1% in the sports world. And I teach professionals from all industries outside of sports and athletes as well, how to apply these tools at work and in everyday life. And who do I serve? As I said, professionals from all industries. So right now, I can tell you some of the clients that I work with. I have people who are professional copywriters. I have people who work in the finance industries. There are lawyers who are clients of mine. Of course, there are professional athletes who I coach on things like mindset and discipline. I don't do any basketball coaching, not athletic training, anything like that. People who are social media marketing managers, people who own their own social media companies, people who run events companies. These people who are ex-military, a lot of these are the type of people who are my clients because they come to me because they see that from my background as an athlete, they understand the discipline that goes into it, the showing up every day that goes into it. And they see that in my work on a daily basis. And the number one thing that people come to me for, patients, just so everyone understands, is that everyone knows that I'm a person who's going to give it to you straight. They know that I'm going to be real. They know I'm going to be objective. And they also understand that when I'm working with somebody, I'm not working with you to please you, but to serve you. In other words, if that means I need to tell you something that you might not necessarily like in a moment, something that might make both of us uncomfortable, I'm going to do it because my goal is to help you. And the best way to help people is to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. So those are the people that I serve.
And where can we find your program?
Well, I have a lot of programs, but I would tell you the number one thing that I would tell people to get involved in if you're just coming into my world is to get a free copy of my newest book. It's called The Third Day. And you can get that book by going to thirddaybook.com. But that book is all about what moves you to show up on a day-to-day basis to deliver at your highest level, even when you don't feel like showing up and delivering at your highest level. There is a strategy to it. This book is not a hype up motivational book, because motivation comes and goes. This book is a strategic book to help you understand how you can move yourself to show up on that level on a day-to-day basis, because that's what all the best professionals do. So that book is free. All you would do is cover the shipping, and we do ship that book worldwide, and it's at thirddaybook.com. That's the best place to get started with me.
Are you on any social media? Can we connect with you anywhere on the social media?
Of course. And yes, I'm on all the social media. So I'm on every platform. The one that's probably most popular right now is Instagram. So my Instagram is just my full name, Dre Baldwin, all one word. But I'm also active on a daily basis on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, all the social media platforms. I have an account on TikTok. I don't post there that often, but everywhere else I post every single day. I am active. And yes, it will be me replying to you if you message me or comment or anything on any of those platforms. I do all my own social media.
Thank you. There will be more from Dre in a moment. If you are listening to this on a podcasting platform and you are encouraged by Dre's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has tons of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneurs' guests' journeys, all there to help you find a path to your own online success journey. The site offers exclusive members-only content, and you can join absolutely free and be part of this amazing online success community today. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Dre, I would like for you to share more with my audience if you're up for it.
Sure. Let's go.
Thank you. Do you like to watch movies or read books?
Yeah, is this an either or question or?
Yes.
Oh, definitely books. I don't watch movies hardly at all.
Tell us, what is your favorite book that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
Well, all books have relevance to being an entrepreneur, depending on how you look at it. My favorite book of all time is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
That's a good question. Now, let me ask a question before I answer it. Do I still have my phone and laptop and internet access?
Yes.
Okay, well, I wouldn't even need to invest the money. I would hold on to the money and I would just start posting. I would be podcasting. I'd be putting up videos, and I'd be writing articles on a daily basis to start building an audience. Then I'd put together some type of offer that doesn't cost me money to deliver, such as a coaching program or a masterclass or a live training. And I would start making my money back that way. I would hold on to the $100. I wouldn't even need to use it.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your pocket every day, what would be written on it?
Probably work on your game, but that's an easy one. I'll give you one more thing I put on it. Another thing I would put on it is do it now. That is a quote that W. Clement Stone, who was a business partner of Napoleon Hill, he was famous for saying it to himself so often. And I think for a lot of us in life, entrepreneurs, athletes, whoever, and everybody in between, one of our biggest challenges is procrastination, that we have something that we say we want to do and we're thinking about doing it. We know we need to do it and we're going to eventually do it, but we always procrastinate and waste time as if we have unlimited time in life. And we all know that we don't. So do it now.
What is your next chapter?
My next chapter is continuing to build the Work on Your Game brand and continue to spread the message. I know that and I have proof that there's a ton of value in the Work on Your Game message, but at the same time, not everybody knows about me. I mean, before we connected here, you had no idea who I was, right? So that's a challenge that needs to be solved. I need more people to know about me, and even the people listening to the show, many of them probably have not heard of me before. And that's a problem for me to fix, is to make sure more people know about me. So just figuring out different ways we can get this message spread to the people who actually need it. That is the next chapter. We'll just continue to expand.
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you are only on the way?
Both. I feel like I have succeeded in that I am being the person who I want to be and doing things that I want to do, while at the same time, as I just said, there are people who are listening to this right now who before this conversation had no idea who I was, had never heard of Dre Baldwin or Work on Your Game. So I'm not there yet, but at the same time, I have done some things. So it's always both at the same time. Because if I get to the point that I feel like I've succeeded, period, then what's the point of even showing up anymore?
Would you ever stop?
I doubt it. I don't think I would ever retire, in the way that we traditionally know it. I think I would always be doing what I'm doing because I actually enjoy what I'm doing, even though we do things to make money as businesses and things like that. But even if it wasn't for the money, I would still find a way to do the things that I'm doing because I enjoy giving people the game and seeing that I'm making an impact on people. I don't think anyone ever wants to retire from making an impact.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
Sure. So on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, that's an app that I think almost everybody's using these days. So definitely connect with me there and message me. Let me know that you heard me on this show, and make sure you go claim your free copy of my book. It is called The Third Day. You can get it at thirddaybook.com. That link will also be the link in my bio on Instagram. So make sure you get your copy of that book so we can send you your copy as soon as possible.
Dre, it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Dre.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast, and they're only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite platform to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at iTunes and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share your journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out her course on clarity while you're at the website. Finding clarity is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.